So actually analysis of poverty on the basis of social exclusion and vulnerability is now becoming very common. So let us understand these two terms. First is social exclusion. It means the poor people have to live only in the poor surroundings. They have to live with other poor people. They cannot enjoy social equality among with other people living in the same society. Some individuals or groups, they are excluded from the facilities, benefits and opportunities that others enjoy. So this social exclusion has become the cause of continuous poverty, and it is also a consequence of poverty. Look at this image, a cluster of chugis, all poor people living together. They cannot afford to live in the other colonies where the rich people live. So this is called social exclusion. They are excluded from the society, from other groups, and this exclusion leads to a vicious cycle of poverty. Such people, they are unable to come out of this cycle of poverty. The second aspect is vulnerability. Vulnerability means high risk or high probability of being poor. There are certain communities or individuals which have greater probability of being poor. Some social groups like scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and some groups like widows, handicapped person, elderly people, they have more chances, more risk. They are more vulnerable to being poor because of lack of facilities like assets, education, health and job opportunities. Since they do not have more of this, so they are more likely to be poor. At the time of some natural disasters, these are the groups which have faced the greatest risk. Although disaster is for everyone, but these groups, they face higher risk. They are more adversely affected than other people when hard time comes for everybody. So basically, suppose I'll give you an example. If there is a shortage of some grain in an area, in a region, then because of shortage, the demand becomes high, the supply is low, so the prices of the commodities rise. So it is the poor people who cannot afford to buy at the higher prices. Those who are rich or above poverty line, they are not much affected. They can use their surplus money to buy the grains. But it is these people, these vulnerable group, people belonging to these group, who are more adversely affected when there is a natural calamity or when hard time comes for everyone. So social exclusion and vulnerability are two factors which are considered by the social scientists to study poverty. Next topic is the poverty line. What is poverty line and how it is measured? It is a common method used to measure poverty on the basis of income and consumption level. It indicates minimum income level necessary to fulfill the basic needs. So poverty line is basically an imaginary line. So those people who have the income above this line, above this income level, they are not considered poor. But those who are living below this income level, they are considered poor. So every country periodically decides its poverty line, and it changes from time to time. So poverty line varies with time. Obviously, this is because of the inflation rate. Whatever rates of commodities was in 1950s, and if you compare it with 2018, there would be a drastic difference. A 100 rupee note could buy a lot many products in 1950, but it is not of much value in 2018 because the prices of the commodities have increased tremendously. So that is why the poverty line varies from time to time, and that is the reason each government, it revises its poverty line periodically. Poverty line also varies with place. Basically, the poverty line depends upon the existing level of development of a country. So poverty line for a developing country will be different for a poverty line for a developed country. There are some items which are considered essential in a developing country and not in the developed countries. For example, a car. Car is considered essential in USA. So that means a person who does not have a car will be considered poor. On the other hand, if you see in India, car is still a luxury product. It is not a necessity. So it varies from place to place depending upon the level of development in that country. Suppose a person earning, let's say $20–30 in a month will be considered poor in USA. But same amount converted into rupees in India, the person will not fall below the poverty line, because the buying capacity of a dollar and the rupee is different in different countries. So the poverty line varies from one country to another depending upon their level of development. So now let us understand how poverty line is determined in India. First of all, the first step is that the minimum level of food, clothes, footwear, fuel and light required per person is determined. So these are certain essential items, like person need food, a set of clothes or footwear, fuel to prepare food, light, medical requirement. So first of all, the basic minimum level for basic subsistence, not for the luxury, but for basic subsistence, how much of this item are required is determined. Then the second step is these items, they are multiplied by their prices in rupees to determine how much money do people need for bare minimum subsistence level. I will give you an example. Let us, this is just for an example. Let us consider a person needs 5 kgs of food grain per month. So multiplied by its price, the person needs rupees 25 to buy the grains. Then a person need other food items like vegetables, spices or fruits, and let's say the person needs rupees 200 for other food items per month. Then a set of clothes, I'm considering rupees 200 for that also. Then person needs fuel to cook food, let's say 2 liters of fuel multiplied by its price, rupees 50. Alright, apart from this, they also need footwear. So for a pair of footwear, let's say rupees 25. So the total amounts comes out to be rupees 500. So this is just an example how the agencies, they calculate the poverty line. So this 500 would be considered a poverty line. So if a person is earning rupees 500, he will not be considered poor. But if his income is below 500, then he will be a BPL person, that is below poverty line. So basically the minimum level of food and other items are determined, then they are multiplied with their prices and the total amount is calculated. This is how the agencies calculate the poverty line. Now, how much amount of food is required? Presently, it is based on the calorie requirement. How much calorie is required for the person for bare minimum subsistence. So this calorie requirement, it varies depending upon age, sex or the gender and occupation. The growing children need more energy, so the calorie requirement is higher as compared to elderly. So, as per the gender, the requirement of calorie in males is genetically higher as compared to females. The calorie requirement also depends upon occupation. Those who have to do manual work like construction labor or the domestic workers, they need more calories as compared to the persons who are doing the desk job. So accordingly, the calorie requirement is first determined. Then as per this current data, the average calorie requirement per person per day in rural areas 2400 calories, in urban areas it is 2100 calories. So you will see a difference here. It is higher in the urban areas as compared to the it is higher in the rural areas as compared to the urban areas. So what is the reason? The reason is in rural areas people have to do more of manual work. So if there is more of manual work, those persons, they need more of calories. Like they have to walk distance to collect water, or they have to walk down to their field and to and fro. So that is why more of manual work is required. That is why the calorie requirement in rural areas is considered higher than in the urban areas. Now, these calories are converted into the food like cereal, pulses, milk, oil, sugar and vegetables. These calories, from where will they come? They will come from the food items. So how much food item is required to cover up these calories is determined, and then this food items, and then they are multiplied by their prices to determine the poverty line. This is how it works. Now, as per the data of 2011-12, the poverty line in rural areas is rupees 816 per month, while in urban area it is rupees 1000 per month. Here again you will see the difference. Although the calorie requirement in rural area was more, that is 2400 calories, and as compared to urban, but the poverty line or the bare minimum money required to buy those calories is higher in the urban areas. What is the reason for that? The reason is that the cost of essential commodities in urban area is high. So because of higher cost, the total amount required to buy the food and other essential items is higher in the urban areas. So on one hand, the calorie requirement is higher in rural areas, but the poverty line is always higher in urban areas because of higher cost of goods. Now, I will give you an example. Suppose there is a family of 4 members. In rural areas, I just told you their 816 rupees is considered as a poverty line in rural areas. So for a family of 4 members, if you multiply rupees 3264 rupees is the poverty line for that family. So if the family is not earning this much rupees, if the income per month is less than this, then they are considered below poverty line. On the other hand, in urban areas, it is rupees 1000 per month. So if you multiply it with 4, it comes out to be rupees 4000. So in urban area, if a person or if a family as a whole is earning 4000 or more, they are not considered poor. But if the income is less than 4000, they are below poverty line. So in India, the poverty line is estimated periodically by NSSO. This is a government agency that the full form is National Sample Survey Organization. They periodically do the survey, collect the samples and calculate the poverty line depending upon the present inflation rates. On the other hand, World Bank, they use a uniform standard poverty line to compare different countries. For each country, their poverty line is same. As per 2011 data, it is $1.90 per person per day income is considered a standard poverty line. If the income of a person is less than this, then they are considered poor. So for this they use to compare different countries. They have standard for all the countries, whether it is a developed country or a developing country. This poverty line is standard, so it helps them to compare different countries.